Madam Chair, and really thank you for delving into this issue here and holding this hearing. I mean, I agree with you that fraud and abuse of the system is costly to taxpayers, and I'm looking forward to working with you on an ongoing basis to continue to hold hearings like this to try and get some control over these systems, some of these government programs. And as we were talking earlier, that is a real challenge. I think we all share the same goal. We want an effective and efficient government, and the trick is, I come from the private sector, and when we were talking about it earlier, that in the private sector you have the fiscal discipline of going bankrupt, of making sure that you actually not only just balance your budget but have a surplus. You have to make a profit. And in government, as these programs grow, it is how do you institute the controls so that you have bad actors that take advantage of it? How do you prevent that going forward? It's a very difficult issue. But I think it might be a little interesting to just give a little history lesson on the expansion of the Medicare program and how we have such a difficult time controlling its cost. Back both Medicare and Medicaid were basically set up in the mid-'60s. When they initially estimated how much Medicare would cost the American taxpayer, they projected out 25 years. And they said that Medicare would cost $12 billion in the year 1990. In fact, it ended up costing $110 billion, 9 times the original estimate. So the first thing you got to understand is government's not particularly good at estimating the future costs of some of these programs. Today, when you combine Medicare and Medicaid in terms of outlays from CMS, it's a little over $765 billion, which represents about 21% of our entire federal budget and about 27% of the $2.8 trillion that we spend on health care every year. The program, in terms of number of Americans it serves, when you combine both of them, when they first started, they served about 29 million Americans. Today, they serve 107 million Americans, about 35% of our population. So these are huge programs. 35% of our population take advantage, are beneficiaries of the program, so these are important programs. We need to make sure that they run efficiently, effectively, and they don't waste taxpayer dollars, and that they are not abused by the suppliers of the system. In getting prepared for this hearing, you quoted some of these statistics, but I want to just kind of go back over the dollars spent on durable medical equipment. About $10 billion a year. I'm rounding these figures, and the improper payment of that in 2011 was 61%, which is $5.9 billion. Now you have to think about that. I come from the private sector. If 61% of our expenditures were made improperly or paid to fraudulent suppliers, I mean, we wouldn't be in business, and yet that's been going on in Medicare probably for years. And then, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, the amount that we recovered out of that year was $34 million, about 0.6% of the improper payments. So I've got some real questions in terms of how could that be? I mean, what really is determined? What is really an improper payment? I mean, is it a technical violation in terms of paperwork or what? I mean, we really have to get our arms around that. But I'll conclude here quickly, but I just want to talk about the bureaucracy involved in Medicare, and I think that might be part of the problem is, Medicare contracts with a number of outside suppliers, and it's a real alphabet soup of agencies. You've got your certs, you got your NSC, your MACs, your ZPICs, your RACs. All these independent contractors are making payments and auditing, and it's obviously not working very well. And when you take a look, and one of the people testifying in the second panel lists the different types of frauds, and right now she lists 6 of them. I just want to quick list them. A telemarketing fraud scheme. You got your services not provided fraud scheme. You have items not medically necessary fraud scheme. No relationship with ordering physician fraud scheme. False front suppliers, and here's one of my favorite, provision of DME while a patient is under hospice care residing in a skilled nursing facility fraud scheme. Now again, we're dealing with an important government program that is just set up that can be preyed upon this way. And certainly as we were researching this, so many of these fraud schemes are perpetrated by individuals that set up shop, commit the fraud, and by the time the government's aware of them, they've already got their millions, they've left town. So again, I really appreciate the fact that you're holding this hearing. I think it's extremely important for us to get to the bottom of these things, and I'm really looking forward to questioning particularly the witnesses from Medicare and CMS, so I can try and get my arms around what is the problem here. So thank you, Madam Chair.